Hey there, I just want to make a quick video on this scissor jack that I made. Alright, I guess I should say modified. I've been using scissor jacks as a replacement for this hydraulic jack that I've had for 5 or 6 years. I noticed there's a couple limitations with scissor jacks. First one is the range that they can actually lift. When you jack this all the way up, you're only looking at about 12.5 inches of lift. And you have to have the car low enough to actually fit the jack under it. And it just doesn't lift that far. When you jack a car up to this range, it's not really enough to get under it and do any useful work. The second thing that was a struggle was even after you jack it up, and you can see it happening here, I've shut the valve pretty well, but it still just slowly sinks down. Now that's probably due to the internals here. This is a really cheap jack. Probably needs to be serviced. I'm sure there's some seals or something I could get off acdelco.com and service this thing. But it has the limitations of not being able to lift very far, being relatively slow, and only lifting 4,000 pounds. So not super impressed with this little jack. So I started using the spare tire jack from my wife's Honda. It's a little scissor jack. It was a single joint, or I guess 2 joint single scissor, and operated on the same idea here where as you lift the scissor jack up, as pressure is applied to the top of the scissor jack, there's a surface pressure that's applied on this side and this side of this little joint right here. Before I modified this jack, it just had a little Teflon washer, and then over here it's just got a threaded portion here. It simulates a nut on a Acme thread screw, and then the Acme thread screw goes through it. So as you actually turn this, you can see that it raises the scissor jack and applies a compression force here and I guess a compression force on the threads here. So what I did was I ground down a little expansion joint that was holding this Acme screw from backing out of this spot right here. And I'll show you what I mean. When you first get the scissor jack, there's some little, almost like they pinch the Acme screw to expand the metal out to keep from backing out this way. So I went in there and got with my Dremel and ground those down, and I backed the Acme screw out. And then I got on Amazon and I got these little ball screws that were almost the exact same. They're a little bit loose, but they kind of meet the metric. They were almost the exact same inner diameter as the outer diameter of this Acme screw. Put those on there and put the thing back together, and then put a couple tacks right here. If you decide to do this to your jack, you can just put a hole through the shaft right here and then use a bolt to kind of retain it in. Anyway, I put it back in. I put a couple tacks with a MIG welder, and now it operates much smoother. It takes much less force to actually operate the jack up and down. It's way faster, and I went from 12.5 inches to 19.5 inches. That's not even fully extended. It actually goes way up there. So, a couple pros about this. It's faster, it can lift farther. I don't have to really service it except for maybe spray some grease on this thread right here. I can use a drill to jack this thing up, so I can be right next to the car and just use my impact drill to just lift the car up. And it's worked pretty well. It's really cheap. You can pick up scissor jacks on Amazon for $20 to $30 range, something like that. And this little ball bearing, I think I got a set of 3 of them for like $5. So I'm gonna put a link in the description below to Amazon scissor jack, and then to the ball bearing that I got here. It works pretty well. Let me know if you have any questions. It's worked really well for me. And now I don't have to service a jack. I can probably just throw that thing away because this is working really well. Thanks.